Mr. Hamilton, welcome back to Power Play. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on.
So the union has said they're willing to work with Canada Post and management. They said that 30 days ago they submitted an offer and they've been waiting for management to come back with an answer. Why has it taken so long for them to get an answer?
Yeah, well, two reasons. First, the offer was a very wide gap between what we could afford. It was some $2.8 billion in new costs over the 4 years of the what would be a new collective agreement. It added new personal days, so now up to 17 on top of stat holidays and up to 7 weeks vacation. Had a whole lot more full-time, and also had a veto in there because they would call any changes within our operations technical changes, which have all kinds of complexities that require essentially vetoing any changes in our operations. So we said, well, that we can't afford that. We can't sign on to that. Clearly change needs to happen. We were working on, and we asked them to come back with something that was more in the ballpark. They didn't. So we said, okay, we'll present new global offers. We were working on that, but we watched the minister's announcement yesterday, just like the union was, and we now need to review that offer based on the expectations that have been laid out, so that we can make Canada Post leaner and more in line with what Canadians need. So we'll present those offers next week. We've told the union that, but we need to get down to negotiations. There was just such a wide gap. Much of what they put forward in their offer in August was what they started with 2 years ago. And there were actually new things added. So we're not in a position where we can afford things. We want to put forward an offer that is reasonable, but at the same time affordable. Because, as Canadians now know, they're on the hook for, our losses. $1 billion alone this year and more to come. And the minister has said, that's going to end. So you need to fix things and align with where Canadians are at, because we can't continue to do that. Canadians can't keep paying more and more as taxpayers for a service they're using less and less.
But you couldn't have had that conversation in the last 30 days. I mean, we know the stats out there that they say there's roughly $10 million per day that's being lost by Canada Post. And the union's claim is that you guys are basically creating this situation so it looks worse. And you could have, in those 30 days, potentially responded to their response.
We did respond to them. We told them exactly what was wrong with the offer and asked them, look, come back with something that's in the ballpark. We can't add $700 million a year in new costs when we're losing $1 billion a year. 19% wages, 17 personal days, enshrining a lot of what is pay for time not worked within our collective agreement. The structure upon which we build letter carrier routes today is based on old dated information. It's built for a time of a lot of mail. A lot of letter carriers finish in less than 8 hours, but they have to get paid for 8 hours, and we can't give them any more work. So enshrining that stuff was not sustainable just in the past. So where do you start in negotiations with that? So we said, why don't you come back with something, where do you really, what's really important? They said nope, so we said, okay, let's build new collective agreements. And unfortunately, we're not at a point where you can just pass back and forth a couple of bullet points as to what you want to achieve. We have to provide full legal contractual language as to what that change would mean, because the trust just isn't there at the table. So we need to work through that, but unfortunately, the union's premise and their foundation is always that our fiscal situation is not real. It has somehow been concocted, that somehow mail disappeared for some other reason other than Canadians are just mailing less. And when that's the foundation, it's hard to find the common ground to how we move forward. If we can't agree that we are facing an existential crisis, how do you work together to fix that crisis? We want to get there, and I think the minister's announcement yesterday is very helpful in that regard. But we are not there, and they're out on strike, and the message is no change.
So with that change in mandate will come some job losses. Are you able to put a number on those job losses that the union can expect?
We need to put forward a plan. The minister's asked for a plan in the next 45 days, so we're going to work on that. But I don't think it's any surprise we need to be a leaner organization.
What does that mean, though? Because I think a lot of union members will look at this and say, so is my job in danger right now?
Well, first off, our employees that have, with Captiva, that have more than 5 years, have job security for life. They can never be laid off even if we don't have work for them. So let's put that to the side. But as we move forward, 14,000 employees just within Cup W are going to retire over the next 5 years. So as we make changes, this isn't about just reducing headcount. It is saying, look, when we move to community mailboxes, it takes fewer to deliver to a community mailbox than deliver to the door. It's just you're driving in a truck, you can go farther, you can carry more. So we will be a leaner organization providing a service that most Canadians won't really notice a lot of differences in, but we have to change that. And as well as we look at as a retail network, we need to focus on those areas where we're overserved because the rural moratorium, the name freaks people out, get that. We want to preserve rural, northern, and remote services. But a lot of that list was created in 1994, so you could walk into Richmond Hill and say, hey, did you know that according to Canada Post, this town is considered rural, so we can't touch any of these 5 post offices all within a few blocks of each other? So we can't sustain that. We got to make the service more affordable because Canadians value it, but it's just becoming too expensive to them as taxpayers.
Part of that as well, Minister Lightbound was on this show yesterday talking about how he's asked Canada Post to review the corporate governance as well. And he said he wants to reduce operations by, quote, 15 to 20%. How many managers can expect to lose their job as a result?
Well, we're building those plans and we need to report back to the minister, but there should be no stone unturned, and that was the message from the minister. We've already been on that journey as management over the last year. We've had layoffs, we've reduced our executive headcount, and people have left the building. And, unfortunately...
And will there be more, though?
There will be more of that, but we will do it in a thoughtful way because at the same time, we have to ensure we have the people in place to execute the major transformation that we're just about to go through. So we will find the right balance. But yeah, it's just as management has had to reduce its size and to do different things, we need to do that right across the organization. And a lot of it, because of our regulatory structure and our collective agreement, has been frozen in time since the 90s and 2000s. While Canadians have moved on and use us less, they mail less, they used to send us a lot of mail. We're built for that. But we're not built for the small amount of mail, the 2 billion letters that they give us today. We're built for 5.5, and that's not sustainable.
So I just want to be clear on this before we leave this. Is it going to be cuts through attrition to the union workforce, or is it going to actually be job cuts within the union as well?
We are going to lean on attrition as much as possible. Obviously, we need to put that in place, and our employees go right across the country. But with 14,000, and half of those are eligible to retire right now. So we have a number of employees that are on the precipice of retiring and can go enjoy that pension while we make changes and we become a leaner organization and we ensure we secure the company for the people that work here. The most secure jobs come from a company that is solid and secure, and we are the farthest thing from that. And we've just been told that the taxpayer lifeline is going to end. We never wanted to be there in the first place, but we're going to do what we need to do to return there while making thoughtful changes over the next while and working with Canadians so that they understand what exactly that means.
Okay, unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there. Mr. Jon Hamilton, Vice President of Communications and Stakeholder Engagement, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.